We know there's going to be a hike in employers' national insurance contributions, and Rachel Reeves confirmed that doesn't fall under her definition of a tax on working people. Why are people who run businesses not working people?
What we set out in our manifesto was that we would not increase VAT, national insurance or income tax on working people, and coming out of this budget, working people will not see higher taxes in the pay slips that they receive. That is really important because we know the pressures that people are under. On other measures in the budget, other tax measures, you'll have to wait to ask directly Rachel Reeves when she is here. And I can't you'll appreciate, the Sunday ahead of the budget, I can't speculate on precise tax measures.
This isn't speculating. I'm asking a question of principle. Why are people who run businesses not working people under the Chancellor's own definition?
Because our manifesto is all about VAT, national insurance and income tax on people whose main source of income is the income that they earn from going out to work.
Well, that's not really what your manifesto said, actually. Your manifesto said repeatedly, in fact, here's a quote here from Rachel Reeves, you read it, it says in black and white, we won't increase national insurance, income tax and VAT. So I ask you again, why are people who run businesses not working people in this government's eyes?
As I say, our manifesto was very clear about who we were talking about and what we meant. Wider measures, other spending and taxation measures within the budget, you'll appreciate the Chancellor will set all of those out, and it's more than my job is worth to come in your programme and announce ahead of time what might or might not be in the budget.
But I'm not, Secretary of State, asking you about the decisions on Wednesday. I'm asking you what you mean as a government, what you meant in your manifesto by working people. The definition of this is incredibly important because you're using it as the foundation for how you make decisions about people's pay slips, people's income. So how do you define a working person?
Well, you are inviting me to speculate by the nature of the question that you're asking. What I'm saying is that after the budget, when people look at their pay slips, they will not see higher taxes. I think that's a very clear commitment about why we are making sure that we recognise the importance of getting that right, because working people have faced higher taxes year after year under the Conservatives. We face some really tough choices, because not just that in-year £22 billion black hole that we faced, but the longer-term direction of our country, the terrible growth that we've seen in recent years. We are determined to turn that around, and all of the work that I'm leading around skills is a crucial part of how we back businesses, how we get growth back, and how over time that allows us to invest more in our public services to break that doom loop that you described of ever higher taxes on working people and lower growth.
But forgive me, I'm not asking you about the details of the budget. I'm asking you what Labour means by a...
I've got to say, watching a significant chunk of a major political interview get bogged down in semantics was a bit frustrating. But that is how every Sunday for me goes. Laura Kuenssberg spent nearly 3 minutes of her time with Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson drilling her over the definition of a working person, which I do agree must be deployed because Keir Starmer's a dodgy bastard. But rather than talking about policies that could have immediate effects on public services like the NHS or businesses grappling with inflation and the rising costs, she was fixated on this term, what is a working person? Phillipson made multiple attempts to steer the conversation toward the substance of Labour's plans, including its commitments to fair taxation and investment in public services, but Kuenssberg would not relent. Despite Phillipson pointing out that Labour's manifesto and policy announcements have already clarified these commitments, it's as if the definition of working person suddenly became a cornerstone issue. What would have been more valuable, though, if Kuenssberg had used those 3 minutes to ask about the real economic implications of a potential hike in national insurance, particularly for employers and public sector budgets? This is especially relevant since, as economist Richard Murphy recently pointed out, an increase could potentially drain £3 billion from the NHS alone. For an organisation as large and essential as the NHS, this could mean reduced funds for critical resources, possibly even affecting patient care. Instead, they glossed over these far-reaching impacts to chase after definitions. Then there's a potential impact on the economy at large. Economists suggest that businesses facing higher national insurance may pass costs on to consumers or cut back on wage increases. Either option could strain household budgets or even increase inflation, which would only worsen the cost of living crisis for ordinary people. Labour has also been clear about wanting to shield everyday workers from tax hikes, but it would have been useful for the interview to probe how these changes might actually have affected the job market or worker pay. Even within the public sector, where employment levels are high, The implications of a national insurance increase deserves scrutiny. For instance, in the NHS, which employs over 1.5 million people, covering this cost could stretch an already tight budget. How will the additional financial burden be managed? Will the government allocate additional resources to cover these changes, or will the NHS have to divert funds from other vital services? Instead, we got an almost 3-minute detour from Laura Kuenssberg that added little to the public's understanding of what Labour's approach to national insurance or fiscal policy was. It's difficult to see how a fixation on terminology serves the broader discussion when there are immediate and pressing concerns about funding, wages, inflation and public services on the line. It's these complex questions and not definitions that need to be explored in more depth to give people a clearer understanding of what lies ahead. But let me know what you think in the comments. I've been Jake from Just Jake. As always, subscribe to the channel and I'll see you next time. You actually made it to the end of the video. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, which, why haven't you already, is somewhere over there. And also, if you want to watch more videos, also check out over there. I've been Jake from Just Jake. See you later.